Hello chess fans, today's video I want to show you a recent rapid game I played, and I think this game is a pretty good illustration of basically how you can defend and also how you can attack. So the game started with e4, and I've played this opponent many times before, and I know they're a very aggressive player, and I usually play this move e5, and then we get some of the same lines pretty much every single time, so I decided to mix things up and go for e6. And this is a move that I've actually never played over the board, but I have recently been looking at the line, and I think that you can pretty much experiment with things in rapid rather than just play them in classical for the first time and get surprised. So my opponent played d4, d5, knight c3, knight f6, e5. So at this point, I was still in my book. I went knight f d7, and now the idea is I'm going to prepare c5. My opponent went for f4, and here I went for c5. And at this point, it's all natural. The main moves continue with knight f3 and bishop e3, and I had some lines prepared there, hopefully. And then my opponent went knight c2, and I kind of did not really fully expect this because I actually knew my opponent played this, but I just really haven't looked at this line in a long time, and I kind of didn't prepare anything for this game. So I went for this move, knight c6, knight f3, and already here I kind of just forgot what I'm supposed to do. And I sort of remembered seeing some games in this position, and I decided to go for queen b6 because that's the most natural move, right? Putting pressure on the center on both sides, and here my opponent went for c3. I expected that. Here I decided to go for this move, bishop e7. And okay, just developing the bishop. I didn't think there's much things that are much more natural. My opponent went for a3. Here I went for f6, putting more pressure on the center. I think I could have also castled, but okay, might as well play f6. And the idea is just to put more pressure. If my opponent plays like a nonchalant move, like, I don't know, like g3, maybe even immediately, I'm getting a lot of pressure on this. I'm getting a lot of pressure, like with the ideas of opening this and then the knight would be hanging here. Okay, but my opponent decided to go for b4 instead. And this was sort of a move that I faintly remembered. I remember seeing this move before. I might have played this online, or I might have seen this in a YouTube video, but I remember that I was supposed to take here, and here they took back, and I remember there's this idea with a5. And here's where I sort of mixed up my lines. So here what you're really supposed to do is go castles, and only after h4 I'm supposed to go a5. And in this position, the difference is I've already castled, so my position is a lot more solid. After b5, queen takes b5, we're going to see a similar line in the game, but after knight c3, queen b6, rook b1, queen d8, something like bishop d3, knight b5 is also playable there, but bishop d3 takes, and then h6. So this is what my notes were, or not my notes, but basically what I actually knew. Like, I've seen this position before. I remember that in this position another time, I think I went for I can't remember what move did I play here last time. Okay, well, last time I think I played like b6 or something, and then, or no, sorry. I went for takes, and then b6, and then I lost a very not nice game after here, knight g5, and then I was quickly mated. So I remember you're supposed to go h6 here. But instead of that, during the game, I think I was also simultaneously playing too fast, but also not really knowing the line that well, so I went for a5 right away, and this is really not a good move. I think, yeah, I've given this... I think the engine has actually given this an inaccuracy, and I'm going to just make the board a little bit bigger. And yeah, I think it is an inaccuracy, because after takes, knight c3, queen b6, rook b1, we notice a key difference. If I go with this move, queen d8, I'm just going to see here castles. My opponent no longer has to commit to this h4 move, because previously, if I castle first, my opponent doesn't have the option of playing bishop d3, because their knight is in the way, and b5 would not make a lot of sense, because I haven't played a5. So really, now that I understand the move, it's to castle first so that you can induce some move that your opponent just doesn't want to play. So that's why you should castle. And then h4 or even rook b1, all these moves are possible. Okay, but my opponent decided to go for this. And here, I'm not sure what I was doing. I remember that in some line, you're supposed to go queen c7, and in some line, there will be a knight on b5. But if I go queen d8, I couldn't for the life of me see why the knight would ever go to b5. Like, okay, yes, this is an outpost because my pawn's moved, but what is the knight doing on b5? It's not really doing anything. So I thought that, I remember the theory, and you have to actually induce knight b5. But yeah, queen c7 is just, it doesn't make any sense. After knight b5, queen b8, the knight's slightly better placed on b5 for no particular reason. They're always having some threats if my queen moves with knight c7 and knight d6 ideas. So my opponent goes bishop d3, I castle now, and now my opponent goes h4. So my opponent shows me that they have some aggressive intentions. I decided to go for h6, and here my opponent decides to go for bishop e3, finishing development. I think that this is a perfectly fine move. And here I went for knight a7. And knight a7 is a good move. And at this point, it's really hard to play for black. Like, black just has a really bad position, because not only did I give them this knight b5 move for free, I also sort of didn't get the ideal line. Like, they've got this bishop move out, and now if I, for example, if I ever take on f5, I'm curious, what's the problem with this? Yeah, they can take here, and I never have any ideas of sacking here. In other lines, for example, in this line right here, in this line, if they take with the f pawn here, I even have ideas of knight takes, and knight takes e5. Pressure on the bishop, and if they go here, I win another pawn. And now I get 3 pawns for the exchange, and, you know, I mean, for the piece, and I have a lot of play, like knight c4 coming here, knight g4, knight g6 ideas to push the pawns in the center. It's pretty scary for white. But instead of that, now I just have nothing. I have no ideas of sacrificing, and their center is completely free. And after knight a7, here my opponent plays a really nice move. So here they could easily just go back. And my idea, if they go back, was to go b5, and then after something like takes, let's say bishop takes, bishop a6, I thought that I was doing pretty well here. And that is indeed so. I think black is better in that position, but my opponent played knight g5, which is just a really, really nice move by my opponent. And I completely missed this move. I completely overlooked it in this specific position. I think that maybe a tad bit more accurate for my opponent was to go knight a7 first, and then after takes here, now knight g5, and after takes, for example, queen e8, which is what my opponent said that they were worried about. Here you have this move, queen g4, threatening to take here. And so here the most natural move is getting out of the pin, so that if here, you know, you can push the pawn and save yourself. But here, white has a pretty ridiculous move, g6. And I think this is very, very counterintuitive. The threat is to go rook takes, and then g7 check with a fork on the king and the rook. So that's just really, really unnatural, and I think I don't really blame my opponent for not seeing that. Like a very, very counterintuitive idea to actually close the pawns. And then, for example, here, if I play, you know, a cheeky move like rook f5, wanting him to take, he doesn't even take. He goes queen h3, threatening g4, and then after f5, I'm just completely lost. So, yeah, there were some really nice moves there. But after knight g5, I do actually get some chances to get some counterplay. So I take here, knight takes b5. And now this is the only difference. Like, my knight's now on b5. And the position is already becoming difficult. And here my opponent actually blunders the game. And they play this move g takes h6. But, like, can you really fault my opponent for playing this? Like, this is the most natural move by miles. And it's a rapid game, you know, you don't want to get really too low on time. Here, instead of that, I think queen h5 was maybe slightly better. During the game, I, of course, expected that. I didn't even see queen h5. But after queen h5, I think what my opponent said they were worried about is something like this. Queen e8. And then maybe after bishop g6, there's this move rook f5, and now he can't take because there's his pin. And if he takes my bishop, I take his queen, and he sacrificed 2 pieces, right? So even if he gets, you know, a rook back, a full rook back, like, I'm still slightly better here as black. But here, funny enough, and here after queen g4, I have this move rook g5, which is just yeah, completely ridiculous. And here apparently you're supposed to take with the queen, and after takes now, it's maybe slightly better for white because you have a bunch of pawns to account for that. So yeah, there's some really unclear lines here, and that line is actually good. But my opponent plays here, which is, yeah, just a blunder. And now apparently black's actually slightly better, but it's extremely difficult. And here I think I had like 2 minutes or something. Like, calculating this sacrifice was just a little bit too much for me in a rapid game. So here I had the move bishop h4, and I did see this move, but here after king d2, I could not for the life of me see any move here for black. For example, like, if you can't even recommend a move. For example, if I play like rook f7 or something, I think here they have queen h5 already threatening my bishop, and yeah, I just can't do anything. Like, after takes, there's even mate threats. They have threats to win my bishop, go this way. So it just looked completely lost. But here apparently I have this move knight takes a3, which is it's just so ridiculous. And I want to show you some of the lines because they are just dirty engine lines that I don't think I would find in classical game. I mean, maybe I would find knight takes a3 in a classical game, but some of these ideas are just absolutely ridiculous. So queen g4, like, you know, most natural move, threatening mate in 1. Here we take the knight, take here, and then we go rook f7. And the reason, well, I didn't even consider knight a3, but the reason why I rejected ideas like this is because queen f6, right? Queen g6, right? And you're threatening mate. Here, mate. Or then takes on g7 and promote another queen. But here we have an absolutely ridiculous move. You know, you would expect a move like, I don't know, maybe you'd expect knight f8, but on knight f8 we have h7, and then he loses the rook, right? So, oh no, we don't go knight f8. We go, excuse me. Oh, sorry about that. We go knight f6, which just looks so ridiculous. So here, for example, if rook takes h4, we just go bishop d7, just sacrificing the next piece as well. We have to sacrifice both pieces back, and if they take, we take with the queen. And actually, I think we are escaping here. Check here, and if they take our rook, we take their rook. So just absolutely ridiculous that we're escaping here. And there's more lines that are very, very crazy. For example, other than queen g4, also this looks pretty natural, right? If you take, then queen g4 comes with a check. So here we take first. This is our whole idea, rook f7. And now they have this ridiculous move, bishop h7. What's the idea? The idea is after takes, queen g4, not threatening to take this and also threatening to promote. And here, rook takes g7 looks very natural. Rook takes h4, king g8, queen takes e6 is the engine line. But here there's another line with queen h5, threatening check and then winning the queen. And if the queen moves closer, there's, not queen h5, queen h3. Okay, sorry. I guess no, they have to go for this perpetual, queen e6. And then if king f8, there's checkmate in 1. And then if rook f7, they have queen g4 again. So, and then just a repeat of the position. This way we win the queen. We just win a full queen. So just some absolutely ridiculous lines. And wait, there's one more ridiculous line that I think was very cool. There was this line. Okay, yeah, it's actually after g5. So yeah, I played this move g5, and it's just an absolute horrible blunder. But if you don't see bishop, like g5 is the second best move. But yeah, I just completely missed what to do after king d2. And apparently knight a3, I have enough counterplay. But yeah, that was beyond me to see. Instead, I went g5. My opponent goes queen h5, threatening queen g7. I go queen e8, queen g6. And here again, I have another chance to... I'm still losing at this point, but I have another chance to maybe complicate with this queen e7. And now I'm covering both of these squares. And after take, the position is not extremely clear. Black's actually still losing here. I think it's like plus 1.5. But okay, it's not extremely clear. Instead of that, I went for queen d8, which I think I have like a minute and a half here. I basically have no time, and I had no idea what to do. So my opponent took the rook, took the knight at this point. I think my opponent had something more clinical. Yeah, they could have gone here, but yeah, it's really hard when there's this knight hanging not to take it. And also that just looks unnatural. I guess this is the idea. But yeah, taking the knight looks very natural. So here I took, which is pretty much the only move. And actually here my opponent blunders and gives me a final chance to come back into the game. And yeah, take a few seconds to see if you can find some of the ridiculous resources, because okay, actually, yeah, one of these moves is good and one of these moves is not. I think actually just from seeing both moves, like, I mean, it's pretty clearly one of them is going to lose. But yeah, sorry about highlighting those already. But yeah, one of these moves actually I considered for a while and then I ended up rejecting. And the other move I ended up playing. But yeah, here I had like 30 seconds. I think I think this one I actually would have found in a classical game because it's not particularly difficult. I'm not sure why I didn't see it. So yeah, the best move is king h8. And the reason why I was scared of this is queen g7, threatening both mates. I saw bishop h4, king d1, and queen e7 covering both mates. But then he takes the bishop, right? Because if the queen moves, there's checkmate. And now here, all I calculated was that at f takes e3, he has rook g4. And I have no way to defend all the threats. He is threatening queen g7 with this. And I don't know. For example, if I move away, he has h7 and then here. So I had no way to defend after it takes there. And that's pretty much the only move I looked at. But what I forgot to look at is just inverting my move order. And here I have this move, rook g8. Which, when you first look at it, you're just like, wait, aren't you just completely winning? After queen h5 takes here, like, I'm up a full piece. And I don't see any attack for white. And yeah, after queen h5, I would be winning. But here, queen g7 is just insanely ridiculous. And I think that if we got to this position, I'm curious, what's the evaluation after this? Yeah, I'm actually completely winning with queen takes a3. But here's what, yeah, I thought. But yeah, I didn't see any of this, actually. I didn't see rook g8. I only saw takes there. But after rook g8, queen g7, I think that if my opponent got to this position, finding queen g7 is a difficult move. Like, if my opponent had like 20, I think my opponent had like 40 something seconds here, like maybe they find queen g7, but at least I put up a bigger fight. Like, queen g7 is a very difficult move to find, I think, because it's not a move that you sort of think about right away. So after takes, the idea is rook h7, skewering this to the queen. And if king f8, you know, defending the queen, we can just tickle them a little bit more, but actually we're just going to take and then take here. And then notice here, white has the outside pass pawn and also has the two bishops, and also my knight is bad. I think this position is completely winning here. So for example, b6, rook b3, bishop a6, takes, not takes, sorry. What are they supposed to do? Okay, bishop g6, and then start pushing the pawn. And then here, apparently, white should win after a long endgame. But considering the position I had, like, I should really take this position. I should be very happy after queen g7. And queen g7 is an only move. There's no other move here. So yeah, I think that if I made my opponent find all that, and here, there's really no other move with the king. Like, if the king moves here, this comes with check now. And then I go queen g5, and if he takes back, and yeah, it's just completely game over. So yeah, I think this would have been my last chance to sort of get back into the game. I think that if this happened, I think I had good chances of winning the game even, especially considering both me and my opponent had, like, 20 seconds. So definitely that was my last chance. If you're wondering what my opponent should have done, wait, what should my opponent should have done? Oh, I guess maybe, oh yeah, rook takes b5 was the mistake, not bishop d3. Yeah, they're supposed to take this and then move the bishop and push. So rook takes b5, and at this point, I went rook f7, which is just a blunder. But here, yeah, I had 30 seconds, and I really just didn't see what to do. I had no idea what to do, and I sort of freaked out. I saw that this was a way to stop the pawn, but yeah, okay, this is just clearly losing. Queen h8, and here I'm not even up a piece anymore. I'm not even up any material. I'm actually down material. So queen g5 is a nice move. Queen g8. Here, yeah, queen g8 was a really nice move. Maybe even more clinical was bishop g6 and rook takes and rook f4, I thought, during the game. But at this point, it actually just doesn't matter. Takes. I went king d8, bishop takes f4, rook a6. I think I have to sort of guard this position so that he doesn't have bishop g5 checkmate here. Queen g7. And here my opponent plays a really clinical move, rook c5. Just really not giving me any chances. And here I looked for so long to see a move, and there's just no moves. So I played rook e8, and then they went h8, queen takes, queen takes, bishop g5, king e8, and then rook c8, checkmate. And yeah, that was the end of the game. So yeah, I think that this game was a well-played game by my opponent. I think that in critical moments, they definitely gave me chances. But I think they played this really nice move, knight g5, which sort of engages all these ideas of this attack, and it's a really good sacrifice. And clearly, yeah, it's really practically effective in rapid. So I think that it's another thing. Like, to beat a higher rated player, you do have to take some risks. You do have to sort of go for them. You have to try and beat them yourself. And even though, yeah, I have a lot of chances in this game, the game got really wild. If you like playing wild and your opponent doesn't like playing wild, I mean, I also enjoy playing wild, and this game was a lot of fun. That's why I'm happy to show it, even though I lost. I think that it was a really cool game. Yeah, if you like playing wild and you want to beat high-rated players, like, the best way to beat a high-rated player is to make the game crazy. That way, nobody can calculate anything, and it just gets really scary. So yeah, I think that's an intuitive game on some ideas of attack and defense, and how to play for the attack and defense, especially in the French defense, and maybe why this line is a little bit underrated. And I apologize if this analysis is too sort of maybe advanced or something, but I just really wanted to get into what I was really thinking during this game, because I thought it was really theoretically important game. I mean, it's a really intuitive, no, I'm trying to think, instructive game. Yeah, that's the word. I thought it was a really instructive game. So that's why I really wanted to explain all my thoughts and try to give it a clear and comprehensive view as possible of the game. So yeah, that's the end of today's video, guys. If you liked the video, please remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next